You've heard the promises. We're bringing the jobs back. Maybe you even believed them once. Maybe you still want to. Steel jobs, coal jobs, factory jobs, assembly line jobs. Jobs that didn't just pay the bills. They gave people pride, stability, and purpose. Jobs your dad or your grandfather might have worked, where you came home covered in soot or grease, tired but respected. Jobs that meant something. You could buy a house on those wages, raise 3 kids, own a car, take a vacation. Hell, maybe even buy a boat if you worked some overtime. No college debt. No gig work. No need for a second job delivering food at night just to keep the lights on. Politicians know how powerful that memory is. They know what it means to towns that have been stripped bare, where the plants shut down, the Walmart moved in, and the opioids filled the void. So they keep making the same promises. We'll open the mills. We'll get those mines running again. We'll bring the jobs back. It doesn't matter which party. It doesn't matter which suit. They stand at podiums with flags behind them and tell you that the golden age can come back if you just vote for them. They say it like a guarantee, like there's some lever somewhere in D.C. they can just pull and reset the clock to 1973. But here's the truth. The hard, unglamorous, unprofitable truth. Those jobs aren't coming back. And it's not because of immigrants. It's not because of black people or brown people or wokeness. It's not because of the EPA or too many regulations. The truth is similar and more brutal. The world changed, and we haven't caught up. We're still trying to win yesterday's battles with tomorrow's weapons. When the factories first started closing, we were told it was all about free trade, that Mexico took the jobs or China or Vietnam. And sure, globalization played a role. But even if you did slap tariffs on everything like they're trying to, or shut the borders like they're trying to, or even bring the factories back like they're promising to, the jobs still wouldn't return. Not like they used to. Because now, machines do the work. A steel mill that used to need 10,000 workers now runs on a skeleton crew. A coal mine your grandfather worked in? Today, a machine can extract more in a day than 100 men used to in a week. An auto plant that once ran 3 shifts and employed your whole town? It's now a robot assembly line overseen by a few engineers and a maintenance team. The jobs didn't just leave. They evolved. And in many cases, they vanished. But no one wants to say that. Because there's no campaign slogan in telling the truth. There's no applause line in saying we can't go back. So instead, they sell nostalgia. They sell a comforting story wrapped in a flag and dipped in a memory. They promise resurrection instead of reinvention. And we, especially in the places hit hardest, want so badly for it to be true. But that's the lie. That's the seduction. The truth, the jobs of the past, are gone. And the future isn't waiting for us to catch up. It's already here. So the real question isn't, how do we bring the jobs back? It's, what do we do now? How do we build an economy for a world we actually live in? And maybe more importantly, who do we trust to tell us the truth, even when it's hard? Because if we're brave enough to stop chasing ghosts, we might just start building something real. This isn't about the future. This isn't some sci-fi dystopia with blinking lights, robot overlords, and flying cars. This isn't a warning about what might happen in 10 or 20 years. No, this is now. Automation is not coming. It's here. It's in your life, your workplace, your daily routine, whether you've noticed it or not. You walk into any modern warehouse, Amazon, FedEx, take your pick. Once upon a time, that building would have been buzzing with people. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Moving boxes, operating forklifts, reading clipboards, clocking in and out on their punch cards. Now, you're just as likely to find fleets of autonomous guided vehicles, robots gliding silently across concrete floors with eerie precision. Artificial intelligence tracks inventory in real time. A handful of humans stand on the sidelines, watching screens, ready to intervene, only if something goes wrong. Now head over to the fast food restaurant. There was a time when you'd be greeted by a teenager behind the counter, maybe someone working their first job. You'd place your order, hand over a few dollars, get a smile and a receipt. But now, you walk up to a screen, you tap in your own order, you swipe your own card, or you've already done it on your phone. And in the back, there may still be some people flipping burgers, but even that's starting to change. In some chains, robots have already taken over the fryers. Automated drink dispensers fill the cups. And no one ever calls in sick. It's easy to think it's just about convenience or cost cutting. But the truth is bigger and more unsettling. We didn't lose these jobs to China. We didn't lose them to Mexico. We didn't lose them to immigrants. We lost them to code, to steel arms, to invisible software humming somewhere in the background, making decisions faster and cheaper than any human could. You don't need to look at the factories anymore to see it. Take trucking, a cornerstone of American labor force. It's one of the last good-paying blue-collar jobs left. 3 million Americans drive trucks for a living. They put in long hours. They sleep in their cabs. They keep the economy running, literally delivering everything we eat, wear, or use. But the writing is on the wall. Self-driving technology is advancing at breathtaking pace. Companies are already testing autonomous 18-wheelers on highways in multiple states. They don't get tired. They don't take bathroom breaks. They don't join unions. They don't need pensions, health care, or time off. And once they're safe enough, and make no mistake about it, that day is coming. It's over. Not all at once, but steadily, relentlessly. Because when the math favors the machine wins. And this isn't just a blue-collar story. It's not about coal miners or truckers or line workers. White-collar jobs are next, and in many cases, they're already under siege. Clerks, paralegals, financial analysts, insurance adjusters, even journalists, even coders have all been replaced or augmented by artificial intelligence. Tools that read faster, write faster, calculate faster. Tools that never make a typo. Tools that don't ask for a raise. You know those long customer service waits on the phone? More and more of those agents aren't human anymore. They're AI-driven bots, responding to your voice, mimicking empathy, and handling your complaint without ever needing to take a breath. Even art, something we once believed to be the last sanctuary of human creativity, is being automated. AI can now compose music, write screenplays, generate photorealistic images, and simulate voices. It's not perfect, yet, but it's getting better with each passing week. And it doesn't have to be perfect, just good enough to replace you. And that's the thing. The shift isn't dramatic and sudden. It's quiet, incremental, invisible until it's too late. It's not a flood. It's a slow, rising tide. And one day you wake up and realize the job's gone. Not because anyone fired you, but because the work doesn't exist anymore. And yet, we're still pretending that this isn't happening. We keep acting like this is some far off threat, something for the next generation to worry about. But it's here, now. We're already living in a post-labor economy. We just haven't admitted it to ourselves yet. Because to do that, to really look this in the eye, would mean confronting the fact that our entire system of value, worth, and survival is based on something that is disappearing. And once we acknowledge that, we're left with only one question. What do we do next? What we're living through right now isn't just a downturn. It's not just a tough economy. And it's certainly not a temporary rough patch we can just ride out if we elect the right leader or tweak the right interest rates. We are in the middle of a transformation, a structural shift, an era-defining upheaval. Some call it the third industrial revolution. And to understand where we're headed, we have to first remember where we've been. The first industrial revolution began in the late 18th century. It gave us steam engines, mechanized looms, coal-fired furnaces. It turned blacksmiths into factory workers. It pulled people off of farms and packed them into cities. It created the modern concept of the job. It also brought child labor, urban slums, brutal factory conditions, and growing inequality. But eventually, out of that chaos, new social contracts were formed. Labor movements emerged, governments began to regulate, and society rebalanced, imperfectly but meaningfully. Then came the second industrial revolution, around the turn of the 20th century. Electricity, telephones, assembly lines, mass production, railroads and automobiles linking coasts and continents. That era gave rise to the middle class. Wages rose, goods became affordable, unions grew strong. The 8-hour workday became standard. People could buy the very things they produced, and that created the consumer economy we came to depend upon. The government stepped in with the New Deal, Social Security, workplace protections. America built highways, dams, schools, and, allegedly, sent man to the moon. That was the promise of the second industrial revolution. Work hard, and you'll have enough. A job meant life. But now, we're entering a third industrial revolution. And this one plays by different rules. This isn't about steam or steel. It's not about stronger machines or faster assembly lines. It's about something more abstract and more powerful. Data, code, connectivity, automation, decentralization, AI. This revolution is digital, decentralized, and exponentially fast. It's driven not by mechanical muscles, but by artificial minds. And in this new world, machines talk to each other, not metaphorically, literally. Sensors, processors, cloud servers allow devices to coordinate in real time without human input. Factories run themselves. A fully automated facility can receive an order online, manufacture the product, package it, and ship it, all without a single human touching the process. Energy is no longer top-down. Solar panels on rooftops generate power at the edges. Smart grids store it and distribute it, and even let neighbors sell surplus electricity to one another. The age of centralized coal plant is fading. Vehicles drive themselves, not in some distant future, but right now, on test tracks, highways, even city streets. AI writes code and designs products and composes music and writes poetry. It doesn't just assist, it creates. Supply chains are no longer static. AI and predictive analytics help companies shift logistics in real time, responding to weather, demand, labor shortages, or geopolitical crises on the fly. We are building a world in which human labor is no longer necessary for productivity. And that changes everything. So, what makes this revolution different? Previous industrial revolutions changed how we work. This one is changing whether we work at all. The first replaced manual labor with mechanical power. The second replaced skilled artisans with assembly line workers. But the third? It threatens to replace the worker entirely. This revolution? It's faster. Technologies now evolve on the scale of months, not decades. Entire industries can be disrupted in a year or less. It's deeper. It isn't just about manufacturing or transportation. It reaches into banking, healthcare, journalism, education, and even the government. No job is immune. No sector untouched. It's global. Automation doesn't respect borders. An algorithm written in Berlin can disrupt a factory in Michigan. A drone fleet managed from India can monitor farmland in Kansas that the Chinese own. Innovation happens everywhere, simultaneously, all the time. And here's the kicker, the part we don't want to admit. We're still trying to solve 21st century problems with 20th century politics. We still debate tax cuts like it's 1980. We argue about regulation as if the big threat to business is paperwork, not algorithms replacing people. We cling to job numbers as the gold standard of economic health, even as the very concept of the job becomes obsolete. Our leaders promise to bring back industries that no longer exist in the same form, if they exist at all. They talk about retraining, as if a 55-year-old factory worker can just learn to code and walk into a software job. We act like this is a glitch in the system, but it's not. This is the system now. And if we don't adapt, if we don't redesign how we think about work, value, and human dignity, we're going to be left behind, not just economically, but morally, socially, spiritually. Because when machines do most of the producing, the central question becomes, what's left for people to do? And more importantly, how do we make sure everyone still matters? When jobs disappear, the old system doesn't just bend, it breaks. Because for over a century, longer really, we've built our entire economy, our entire society on a single idea. Your value comes from your work. What you do, how many hours you put in. That's how we measure worth in the modern world. It's not just financial worth, it's moral worth. Are you productive? Are you pulling your weight? Are you earning your keep? That's the story we've been told. That's the story we've built into our schools, our media, our politics, our identity. No job, no paycheck. No paycheck, no health care, no home, no security, no dignity. And subtly, slowly, no place in the world. That's the social contract we inherited. You work, you get to live. Simple, efficient, ruthless. But what happens? What really happens when there simply aren't enough jobs to go around? What happens when the economy becomes so efficient that most human labor is no longer needed for production, delivery, or even decision making? Do we ignore it? Do we pretend it's temporary? Do we tell people to hustle harder, train more, try coding, deliver groceries, start a YouTube channel? Do we blame immigrants or China or the lazy generation on TikTok? Do we double down on guilt and shame, accusing the unemployed of being entitled, unmotivated, or broken? Or do we do the harder thing? the honest thing, and face reality. Do we finally admit that this system doesn't work anymore? And once we admit that, do we have the courage to build something better? Because here's the truth. We need to decouple work from survival. Not because people don't want to work. Not because hard work has no value. But because the necessity of work as a ticket to basic rights and human dignity is becoming obsolete and dangerous. We need to stop measuring human worth by hours clocked or units produced. Because in a world of automation, those measurements are no longer meaningful. A robot doesn't get tired. An algorithm doesn't need rest. A warehouse of machines can produce more in a day than 1,000 workers could in a month. Productivity is no longer scarce. It's abundant, exploding, overflowing. But here's what is scarce now. Inclusion, a seat at the table, a meaningful role in a society that no longer needs you to lift, carry, or compute. Dignity, a sense that your life matters, even if there's no job attached to your name. Purpose, a reason to get up in the morning beyond chasing a paycheck just to stay afloat. A stake in the future. The feeling that the world isn't leaving you behind, or worse, quietly discarding you. And this is the paradox of our time. We've never had so much wealth, so much innovation, so much potential, and yet we have millions of people struggling just to survive. Not because they've done something wrong, but because our system no longer knows what to do with them. We say, get a job, as if it grows on trees, as if jobs aren't being destroyed faster than we can replace them, as if more work is the answer to a system where work itself is becoming optional. So we have a choice. We can cling to the old story. We can keep demanding labor for survival, even when labor isn't needed. We can keep punishing people for not fitting into a machine that no longer requires them. Or we can rewrite the story. We can build an economy that centers people, not profits. We can create systems where everyone has enough, not as a reward for labor, but as a guarantee of citizenship. We can begin to measure value not just in what we can extract or produce, but in how we care, how we create, how we connect, and how we live. That means rethinking not just policy, but morality. It means letting go of the belief that someone only deserves shelter, health care, or food if they've earned it through work. It means recognizing that life itself is enough of a reason to be valued. This isn't about utopia. It's about realism. Because the alternative is a growing class of people who are excluded from the economy, isolated from community, and stripped of meaning. And if we allow that to fester, we won't just lose jobs. We'll lose democracy. We'll lose cohesion. We'll lose each other. So let's ask the bigger question. In a world where we can provide for everyone, why wouldn't we? It's a time to build an economy that values people, not for what they do, but for who they are, and for what we can become together. Technology isn't the villain. It's a tool. A hammer can build a home or smash a skull. A camera can document injustice or surveil a population. An algorithm can streamline our lives or invisibly reinforce systemic bias. The question is never about the tool. It's always about who's holding it and what they intend to do with it. If we leave technology to the whims of the market, if we treat innovation as something sacred, untouchable, outside the realm of democratic oversight, then the outcome is predictable. It serves profit, not people. That's not just theory. We've seen it play out again and again. Automation replaces cashiers with kiosks, call centers with chatbots, factory workers with robots. The savings? Pocketed by shareholders. The losses? Absorbed by workers, families, entire towns, hollowed out by decisions made in boardrooms. And then we're told this is just progress, that it's inevitable, that resistance is futile, that the market will sort it all out. But progress isn't a law of physics. It's a set of choices about direction, about values, about who we believe deserves to benefit from a world we're building. Technology doesn't have to deepen inequality. It doesn't have to discard people like spare parts. We can govern technology, not just react to it. We can manage innovation in the public interest instead of bowing to the myth that profit-driven disruption is always good. Imagine a world where automation liberates people instead of displacing them, where the productivity gains from AI and robotics aren't funneled upward, but shared across society. We can tax automation, not to punish it, but to steward it. We can use that revenue to fund a universal basic income, ensuring that every person, regardless of their job status, has the dignity of a baseline livelihood. We can shorten the work week, not because there's less work to do, but because we've made it more efficient. We can raise wages, because if machines are doing more, the humans still contributing deserve a larger share of the value. We can finally decouple healthcare from employment, recognizing it not as a perk of a job, but as a right of citizenship. And we can make long overdue investments in human work, in education, because a society that doesn't learn can't adapt. In mental health, because people are not machines, and resilience is not infinite. In care work, because nurturing children, supporting the elderly, and healing the sick are forms of labor AI cannot replicate and markets consistently undervalue. But none of this happens on autopilot. It takes courage to confront the power structures that benefit the status quo. It takes honesty to admit that innovation can be a euphemism for exploitation, and that the old economic models are breaking under their own weight. And it takes letting go of nostalgia that insists that we return to some imagined golden past if we just stop the clock. We can't, and we shouldn't want to. The past had its own failures, many of which we're still living with. The future isn't the problem. The problem is pretending we can opt out of shaping it. If we want a world where technology serves people, we have to build it intentionally, democratically, together. Or we can let someone else build it for us and live in the world they design. The American dream was never really about the job itself. It was about what the job allowed you to do. To buy a home, to raise a family, to send your kids to school with a full belly and clean clothes. To retire with some peace and dignity. It was about opportunity, not just for the lucky or the connected, but for anyone willing to work. That's what people miss. That's what we're fighting for, whether it's wearing a red hat or waving a union sign. Not the job, the dream. But here's the hard truth. The jobs we built that dream on aren't coming back. Not factory jobs, not mining jobs, not even a lot of the office jobs. Because it's not about globalization anymore. It's automation. It's AI. It's the algorithms that don't sleep, don't eat, and never ask for overtime. And so the question isn't, how do we get those jobs back? The question is, what kind of life do we want to make possible when most of the work no longer requires a human being? Because the American dream isn't dead. It's just waiting for its next chapter. We need a new social contract. One that fits this economy, not the one for our grandparents' generation. One that recognizes that work isn't the only way to contribute to society, and that a person's value isn't measured by the hours they clock in a factory or an office. One that says if machines are now doing more work, then it's time for people to spend more time living, raising families, learning, creating, helping each other, caring for our communities, not racing to the bottom, not fighting for scraps, not living paycheck to paycheck while billion-dollar companies automate away our futures. This new contract isn't about handouts. It's about fairness. If technology increases productivity, then the benefits of that productivity should be shared, not hoarded, not extracted, not offshored and hidden behind tax shelters. Because when machines do the work, and they will, then the central question becomes, what kind of society do we want to be? Do we want to build a future where a few people live like kings while the rest of us struggle to survive? The Mad Max future? Or do we want to finally build a system that puts people first, not just profit? That's not a left-wing dream. It's not a right-wing conspiracy. It's a human necessity. And if we want the American dream to mean anything in this new world, we have to redefine it, to dream bigger, to include more people, to measure our success not just by what we produce, but by how well we care for one another. Because the next chapter isn't going to write itself. And if we don't write it together, someone else will write it for us. And we may not like the ending.